table, grabbing a handful of tortilla chips. "Apophis has a pattern," he told JD. "The other attacks all happened on the night of the new moon, when darkness is greatest. Believe me, he'll hit your museum tonight, and he'll hit it hard." JD Grissom squeezed round a cluster of magicians drinking champagne.
"These other attacks," he said. "You mean Chicago and Mexico City?"
"And Toronto," Carter said. "And a few others." I know he didn't want to say more. The attacks we'd witnessed over the summer had left us both with nightmares. True, full-out Armageddon hadn't come yet. It had been 6 months since the Chaos Snake Apophis had escaped from his Underworld prison, but he still hadn't launched a large-scale invasion of the mortal world as we'd expected. For some reason, the Serpent was biding his time, settling for smaller attacks on gnomes that seemed secure and happy. Like this one, I thought. As we passed the pavilion, the band finished their song. A pretty blonde woman with a fiddle waved her bow at JD. "Come on, sweetie," she called. "We need you on steel guitar." He forced a smile.
"Soon, hon. I'll be back."
We walked on. JD turned to us.
"My wife, Anne."
"Is she also a magician?" I asked. He nodded, his expression turning dark.
"These attacks, why are you so sure Apophis will strike here?"
Carter's mouth was full of tortilla chips, so his response was, "He's after a certain artifact," I translated. "He's already destroyed 5 copies of it. The last one in existence happens to be in your Tut exhibit."
"Which artifact?"
JD asked. I hesitated. Before coming to Dallas, we'd cast all sorts of shielding spells and loaded up on protective amulets to prevent magical eavesdropping, but I was still nervous about speaking our plans aloud. "Better we show you." I stepped round a fountain where 2 young magicians were tracing glowing "I love you" messages on the paving stones with their wands. "We've brought our own crack team to help. They're waiting at the museum. If you'll let us examine the artifact, possibly take it with us for safekeeping."
"Take it with you?" JD scowled. "The exhibit is heavily guarded. I have my best magicians surrounding it night and day. You think you can do better at Brooklyn House?"
We stopped at the edge of the garden. Across the street, a 2-story tall King Tut banner hung from the side of the museum. Carter took out his mobile phone. He showed JD Grissom an image on the screen. A burnt-out mansion that had once been the headquarters for the 100th gnome in Toronto. "I'm sure your guards are good," Carter said, "but we'd rather not make your gnome a target for Apophis. In the other attacks like this one, the Serpent's minions didn't leave any survivors." JD stared at the phone's screen, then glanced back at his wife, Anne, who was fiddling her way through a 2-step.
"Fine," JD said. "I hope your team is top-notch."
"They're amazing," I promised. "Come on, we'll introduce you." Our crack squad of magicians was busy raiding the gift shop. Felix had summoned 3 penguins, which were waddling around wearing paper King Tut masks. Our baboon friend, Khufu, sat on top of a bookshelf reading The History of the Pharaohs, which would have been quite impressive, except he was holding the book upside down. Walt, oh dear Walt, why? Had opened the jewelry cabinet and was examining charm bracelets and necklaces as if they might be magical. Alyssa levitated clay pots with her earth elemental magic, juggling 20 or 30 at a time in a figure of 8. Carter cleared his throat. Walt froze, his hands full of gold jewelry. Khufu scrambled down the bookshelf, knocking off most of the books. Alyssa's pottery crashed to the floor. Felix tried to shoo his penguins behind the till. He does have rather strong feelings about the usefulness of penguins. I'm afraid I can't explain it. JD Grissom drummed his fingers against his Lone Star belt buckle.
"This is your amazing team?"